Shabbat Shalom, everyone. I'm Brother Doug with my mom's sister Sharon right next to me. We got Brother Dennis and Brother Yahusha with us as well. So we're going to do our normal Sabbath day readings right now. So just give me a second. I'm going to go open up my Word software here and obviously get rid of this in the background because I don't want any issues here. And before I forget, let me make a cloud recording here. Okay, where is it? Recording to the cloud. Okay, there we go. All right, everyone. So I'm just going to restate for those that are going to watch the cloud recording. So we are the Waking by Yahuwah Fellowship. Today we are doing the Sabbath day readings, and so we're going to be going first. As soon as I get my Word software open here, we're going to be going first into 1 Samuel 31, and then we're going to be starting 2 Samuel. So 1 Samuel 31. Let's see here. And I apologize. I just want to say this. I apologize to viewers and listeners right now about last night. Facebook partially blocked me in certain regions. And they wouldn't allow me to download the video for me to upload it to YouTube. So I apologize, YouTube out there, all of our brothers and sisters that usually watch on YouTube. You won't be able to see it on there. I do have a Facebook link to my profile on Facebook. If you guys want to see the video, the study we did last night about the Book of Psalms, I suggest you guys do that as your only option. If Facebook ever, takes the block off of it and I can upload it onto the YouTube page, I'll let you guys know. I'll keep you guys informed, but as far as right now, that's the best I can do for you. In the future, I'm going to be doing these collab recordings along with a live stream just in case they try to pull some copyright nonsense again. So that's just a long explanation there why you guys are not going to see differences in the Book of Psalms Part 1 on the YouTube page, just to let you know. All right. Share sound. 1 Samuel 31. Oh, this is a short chapter, huh? And the Philistines fought with Yashrael, and the men of Yashrael fled from before. And they fell down wounded in the mount of Gilboa. And the Philistines pressed closely on Saul and his sons, and the Philistines killed Jonathan, Abinadab, Malchisua, Shaul's sons. And the battle prevailed against Shaul, and the archers found him and wounded him below his ribs. And Shaul said to his armor-bearer, "Draw your sword and pierce me through with it, lest these uncircumcised come and pierce me through and mock me." But this armor-bearer would not, for he feared greatly. So Shaul took his sword, then fell upon it. And his armor-bearer saw that Shaul was dead, and he also fell upon his sword and died with him. So Shaul died and his 3 sons, and his armor-bearer together in that same day. And the men of Yashrael who were on the other side of the valley and those beyond the Jordan saw that the men of Yashrael fled, and that Shaul and his sons were dead. They forsook their cities and fled, and the Philistines came and dwelt in them. And it came to pass on the next day that the Philistines came to strip the dead, and they found Shaul and his 3 sons fallen on the mountains of Gilboa. And they turned him and stripped off his armor. And sent it into the land of the Philistines, and sending around glad tidings to their idols and to the people. So verse 9, is basically them, I guess, sending a tube message to their idols and to the people. Okay, so you have the mountains of Gilboa. Okay, go ahead, brother Yahusha.
We're on First Samuel 1 and 2. We read this last week.
Oh, we did.
Wait, oh wait, never mind. No, we didn't. 31? Huh. Okay, never mind. I guess we didn't.
It's okay, no worries, and thankfully this is not a even if I messed up, we're almost done with the chapter, so thankfully this is a short chapter. Um, but yeah, I think what happened was I meant to do 31 last week, but I don't know, I must have changed my mind or something. And they turned him and stripped off his armor and sent him to the land of the Philistines, sending around glad tidings to their idols and to the people. That's interesting. You don't usually see glad tidings used in a negative light like that. That's kind of interesting. Where they're sending good news to their false gods, basically. And they set up his armor at the temple of Ashtaroth. They fastened his body on Bethshan. Maybe you're right. We might have read this.
Yeah, because we
The
talked about Shaul saying, "Don't let these uncircumcised Philistines kill me." I just
yeah,
don't think it was the it
the
only said
title.
First Samuel 29 to 30, but we did read this one.
All right. Okay. They brought them to Yabesh, burned them there. Okay, they took their bones, buried them in the field that is in Yabesh, and fasted 7 days. Okay. All right, Mom, would you like to read chapter 1?
Sure.
Second Samuel?
Sure. Okay, so David hears of Saul's death. After the death of Saul, David returned from defeating the Amalekites and stayed in Ziklag 2 days. On the third day, a man arrived from Saul's camp with his clothes torn and with dust on his head. When he came to David, he fell to the ground to pay him honor. "Where have you come from?" David asked him. He answered, "I have escaped from the camp of the Israelites." "What happened?" David asked. "Tell me." He said, "The men fled from the battle. Many of them fell and died, and Saul and his son Jonathan are dead." Then David said to the young man who brought him the report, "How do you know that Saul and his son Jonathan are dead?" "I happened to be on Mount Gilboa," the young man said, "and there were Saul leaning on his spear with the chariots and riders almost upon him. When he turned around and saw me, he called out to me, and I said, 'What can I do?' He asked me, 'Who are you?' 'An Amalekite,' I answered. Then he said to me, 'Stand over me and kill me. I am in the throes of death, but I'm still alive.' So I stood over him and killed him because I knew that after he had fallen, he could not survive. And I took the crown that was on his head and the band on his arm and have brought them here to my Lord." Then David and all the men with him took hold of their clothes and tore them. They mourned and wept and fasted till evening for Saul and his son Jonathan, and for the army of Yahuwah and the house of Yashrael, because they had fallen by the sword. David said to the young man who brought him the report, David said to the young man who had brought him the report, "Where are you from?" "I am the son of an alien, an Amalekite, he answered. David asked him, "Why were you not afraid to lift your hand to destroy Yahuwah's anointed?" Then David called one of his men and said, "Go strike him down." So he struck him down and he died. For David had said to him, "Your blood be on your own head. Your own mouth testified against you when you said, 'I killed Yahuwah's anointed.'" David took up his lament concerning Saul and his son Jonathan and ordered that the men of Judah be taught this lament of the bow. It is written in the book of Jasher. It was in,
Yeah.
parentheses there. Okay. Your esteem, O Yashrael, lies slain on your heights. How the mighty have fallen. Tell it not in Gath, proclaim it not in the streets of Ashkelon. Lest the daughters of the Philistines be glad. Lest the daughters of the uncircumcised rejoice. O mountains of Gilboa, may you have neither dew nor rain, nor fields that yield offerings of grain. For there the shield of the mighty was defiled. The shield of Saul no longer rubbed with oil. From the blood of the slain, from the flesh of the mighty. The bow of Jonathan did not turn back. The sword of Saul did not return unsatisfied. Saul said, Jonathan, in life they were loved and gracious, and in death they were not parted. They were swifter than eagles. They were stronger than lions. O daughters of Yashrael, weep for Saul, who clothed you in scarlet and finery, who adorned your garments with ornaments of gold. How the mighty have fallen in battle. Jonathan lies slain on your heights. I grieve for you, Jonathan, my brother. You were very dear to me. Your love for me was wonderful, more wonderful. Here goes emotional Edna again. Your love for me was wonderful, more wonderful than that of women. How the mighty have fallen. The weapons of war have perished.
Go ahead, brother Yahusha. I see you got your hand up.
Yeah, this is the lamentation that I was talking about that it says is in the book of Yashar or the book of the upright.
Hmm.
But from your recollection, the book of Yashar, or at least the supposed book of Yashar, it doesn't span up to David's time, does it?
I would have to look that up actually. I want to see just really quick, and just for people here, we are not soliciting this book as scripture. We're just for research reasons. I want to look into the last chapter to see if it deals with David's time period. So just want to FYI, people that are watching. Book of Jasher. Let me see if I can I just want to skip to like the last couple chapters, see where it ends off with in the book. I know it goes through, I would say Masha's time period, Joshua's time period, possibly the time of Kings, First and Second Kings, possibly. I'm not too sure. I would have to look to see where this book ends, and there's like 90 chapters, so it's very possible it does. No, actually, no. It stops with Joshua's. So I'm actually incorrect. It actually stops before you even would get to Ruth or anything. It just talks about Joshua's generation, the children of the Canaanites were still in the land. Yeah, so this would be Book of Deuteronomy.
That's a weird ending for a book. The end? Really?
That's I'm assuming a translator put that there probably, because I doubt that would be in a text. Yeah, probably a translator felt the need to write the end. Yeah, but according to this, and I really believe this is not the real Jasher as far as my opinion goes.
Mm-hmm.
I believe this supposable book of Jasher is supposed to make you believe that it was written during the time of Masha and Yahusha, son of Nun. Problem is, it's not mentioned in the Septuagint. As far as the Septuagint is concerned, the book of the upright is not mentioned until way past the Torah, way past it.
Mm-hmm.
So there is no book of Yashar in Joshua's time. which is kind of funny because that's all that supposable book deals with, is the time period of the Israelites out of Egypt, and Joshua's probably, it's ending there with going into Joshua's death possibly, but it in no way, shape, or form deals with the time period that it gets quoted from. So you have an issue here because in the Septuagint, I believe this is one of the only two quotes it has, right? So what are the two times it's mentioned in the Septuagint? This place in Second Samuel and what, in Chronicles?
I think so.
So First Chronicles would not be happening until what, Mom? 500. It wasn't written until 600 BC.
Yeah.
So let's just see. Is it written in the book of Jasher? So we're just going to look at that quote up online right now and see how many times this phrase is used. Okay. By the way, the reference that many might be thinking of is completely absent in the Septuagint. I'll just show you what I'm talking about, because I know a lot of brothers and sisters are going to say, oh, but Doug, it's in the book of Joshua. It's only in the book of Joshua if you have a Masoretic text, Tanakh. It is not in any other version of Joshua, meaning most likely they added it to the text. I'll show you what I'm talking about here. So Joshua 10:13.
Which doesn't really make sense to me. Like, the Masoretes confuse me because why put that in there? They didn't even accept that book, did they?
Well, because they're Talmudic rabbinical scholars, they probably would accept that book. A lot of their opinions are actually in that book, especially dealing with Melchizedek. So I would say
today the rabbis today don't accept it.
Yeah, today they don't, because I think what happened is later generations, they wanted to distance from these earlier historical opinions, because some of the opinions they have today are different than the earlier rabbis. So they would disagree with some of the things from Jasher, and stuff like that. So they probably later on, like you're saying, discarded it. But the Masoretes themselves probably believed in it, because there's a lot of things in the book of Jasher that you can even see certain things like that trying to be inserted into their Tanakh, like the Shem not dying in Genesis 11, where in prior versions it literally says, and he died. Genesis 11. So they're trying to make it look like he lived all the way to see Abraham, and that he would have even been old enough for Abraham to know him and Noah. That's another legend in, I forget if it's in Jasher or Jubilees. I think they probably believed in Jubilees as well. There's certain things in Jubilees I could see them pulling from in their Mishnahs and stuff like that. So I think they did believe in them at a certain point in time. But they probably disregarded them at some point. But yeah, so as you can see here, audience, it is not in the Septuagint. And I forget if it's where it would be, if it's verse 13 or 12, where it would say it. See here. I always forget how it's mentioned. Let me just see here. Might be 14, actually. Oh, here we go. Yeah. Has it not been written in the book of the righteous? Now, let's play devil's advocate here. Let's just say it was originally there. Does the phrase the book of the righteous, does that mean it has to be another book? That's another question you could put forth. For example, many people think the book of the wars of Yahuwah is another book. But I have reason to believe the book of the wars of Yahuwah is referring to the Torah. It's very possible the book of the righteous, the book of the upright, is just talking about the scriptures. It's very possible. It's very possible that these rabbis at some point in time created a. Now, again, bear with me here. This is a theory of mine. At some point in time, these Talmudic rabbis at some point decided, well, there's this book of the righteous mentioned, even though we know it's really just talking about the Torah. We're going to make this falsified book, and we're going to make people believe that this is what it means by the book of Yashar. Because if you actually look at the Hebrew word Yashar, it just means righteous or upright. So the book of the upright. So essentially, if you think about it, the Torah is a book of the upright people. It is a book given to Yahuwah's upright people. So it's very possible that there never was a separate book called the Book of Yashar, and that it could have been plagiarized from the beginning. From some point on, rabbis could have made this falsified book. And so that's my little theory on that, because I've seen times where people say, oh, the book of the wars of Yahuwah. Come to find out, if you look at the Septuagint version in Deuteronomy about that, the Septuagint version of that verse is actually hinting that the Torah or the Tanakh itself is the book of the wars. So there could be just a misunderstanding on that verse of itself, just to play devil's advocate. Okay, so that's kind of my other thought there. The only reason I'm saying that maybe it was originally there is, or maybe it could have also been added by the time the Vulgate was, created. It could have been added to, because that's like at least 1st to 3rd century, somewhere around there, whatever their source would have been. So it's very possible it could have been added there too, but either way, it's not there in the Septuagint, the oldest authoritative Tanakh we have. It's not there. So the Septuagint, by the way, for those that don't know, that's 300 BC, 300 years before Messiah came to earth. Vulgate is about roughly the Hebrew text rumored Jerome would have been spanning from 1st to 3rd century AD, not BC, AD. And then you have, obviously, the Masoretic all the way to the right is, 11th century AD. So it's very possible that phrase could have been added at some point in time, or if it ever was there in the original Hebrew, like I said, it doesn't mean that it's a separate book. It could be saying that, isn't this written in the scriptures? Isn't this written in the book of the righteous? So you could take that either way, because quite frankly, people have made mistakes about the book of the wars too. So it's very possible. We really don't know, because unfortunately this quote, if it is a separate book from the scriptures, is not there in the Septuagint. It only appears in the Septuagint later on in the Tanakh as a quote, like we're seeing here in 2 Samuel. Okay, this is one of the two only times you'll see it quoted in the Septuagint is 2 Samuel. The Joshua 10:13 verse is not in that quote, is not there in the Septuagint. And let me see here if they show you any other times. Is that the only 2 times it's quoted, Mom? Is Samuel?
I think so.
So there's only 2 times it's quoted. One of them is missing in the Septuagint. And the other time is in 2 Samuel, which we just showed you guys from Joshua 91, supposedly, that book. So the supposable book of Jasher does not mention anything past Yahusha, son of Nun's time period. It stops. So there's a lot of questions that got to be answered about that. Why, if that book is supposed to be around that time period and claiming that this is written in that book, but yet it stops at Yahusha's Yahusha, son of Nun's time period. To me, that's a little weird. That's a little strange. Unless it goes back and forth between time periods, I would have to go back and see if there's any time that I don't think it is. I have yet to see a passage in that book that even deals with the time of Samuel or David. So again, there's issues with that. So, but that's just my opinion on that. If the book was really around that time and really had this in it, you should find something from Second Samuel in it. And so in my personal opinion, to just end on this, is that just because it says it's written in the book of the righteous, that's how the Septuagint words it, the book of the righteous, doesn't mean it's another book. It can mean in the Tanakh, in the scriptures, the book of the righteous. Go ahead, brother.
I would like to see, because I know that Targum Jonathan has Joshua. I'd like to see what that says. Only the Sepharia only has it in Aramaic. Not there's I can't seem to find an English version.
Yeah. Let's see here. Targum.
Not that I would agree with what it says anyways, but
Yeah, and to be fair, the Targums are, as far as written down, they don't go as far back as the Septuagint. So to our point, it can still be added. It can still be added because number one, the Targums are from rabbinic communities. So to kind of it would actually prove my point if it was in it. It would actually prove my point because let me see if I can put this on the screen here because it will even tell you on Sepharia.com. Let me see how old the Pseudo Jonathan one is. Let me see here. I'll tell you here. Go to Tanakh.
one way that you can do it is highlight the Aramaic and then drop it in a question on Reddit of for people that speak Aramaic and have them translate it for you. I might do that later.
Let's see here. Usually they have the Targum right away when I click on Tanakh. Here we go. Okay, so they got Onkelos here. So you said the Jonathan one would have it. Okay. Yeah. All right. So, yeah, here we go. So Jonathan on Joshua. So it would be 10:13, and I'll try to do that right now. I'll try to. Yeah, some of them they don't translate. I don't know why that is.
See, even though this is the same, this Aramaic is the same that's used for supposed biblical Hebrew today, it's completely different as far as its wording and its spelling. Because if you put it into a Google Translator for Hebrew to English, it gives you something completely different. It says, and it was not Yahweh as that Yoma Kadmohi and in Teruhi Dr. something something ye, the roast of a Nesh Ari comes to Yashua.
Yeah.
That makes no sense, man.
Yeah, it's confusing. Yeah, there's a lot of dots and dashes here. But I'm trying to see how I can highlight this whole thing. What would be the exact word where it would what should I actually highlight from this?
I don't know because that it's
Yeah.
even though they're the same lettering, like I said, the words of Aramaic are different than the words of Hebrew.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm probably just gonna go with my assumption that it's been added in because the fact that you can't go any farther back than 100 AD to 200 AD to find it in there. That seems very skeptical.
13, right? That we're looking at.
Yeah, verse 13 of chapter 10. They're the only versions that have it in there are the Vulgate and the Masoretic, which the Vulgate would have used a not as old Hebrew text. It would have been possibly, this is just rumor, but possibly from 180 to 280 Hebrew copy that they would have translated into Latin with also certain books from the LXX. So basically, the Vulgate is like a hybrid. It's a partially Hebrew, a much newer Hebrew than what the Septuagint was translated from. Plus certain books in the LXX, like the Book of Psalms. So I'm assuming they would have used a Hebrew version of the Book of Yahusha here on the screen. So they would have used maybe 200 AD, 100 AD about, not anything close to the original Septuagint. So I'm assuming that's why they have it there. But either way, I think that was added to try to validate this so-called Book of Jasher. Because Jasher does have that verse in it. Modern Jasher does have the concept of the sun standing still. It has that in it. So I could see them adding that in there to say, see, this is really scripture. And it's found in this book, type of thing. Versus, because it's very weird to me that the oldest we have does not have it in that verse. The oldest. As far as a complete Tanakh, this is the oldest we have, is the LXX, and it doesn't have it. So, to me, that seems like that's something added in. And by the way, for people saying, well, how would, why would Jerome take a rabbinically inspired Hebrew version? You got to also understand Jerome befriended some rabbis.
Yeah.
When he was making the Vulgate, he befriended rabbis.
Yeah.
So you also got to realize too, he could have got his hands on a somewhat rabbinically produced Hebrew text that's, even though it's a lot older than the Masoretic, it's still somewhat rabbinically influenced.
Mm-hmm.
And some of the Circe fathers were rebuking him for taking the Hebrew text of that day. They were saying, what are you doing? Why are you going away from the Septuagint? What are you doing? So that's a whole big study of itself, researching into that. And, but anyway, so there's a lot of reasons. This is one of the main reasons, though, I don't believe modern Jasher is the real Jasher. One of the biggest reasons. It seems like it was agenda to put it in there and put that quote in there to make it make it look like, oh, that's scripture, because they're quoting from there, and it's being mentioned as this miraculous event is recorded in it. And so that, I think that was a way that the Masoretic rabbis were trying, possibly before then. If it's in the Vulgate, it could have not even been the Masoretes. I would take that back. It could have been whoever did the manuscript that Jerome used could have added it in. So, that's another thing too. So, but either way, I think it has been added in, just like the late Michael Heiser would say, at some point in time, someone added this to the text. At some point in time, someone added it. Just like at some point in time, we don't know where. Just to use another example, Deuteronomy 32, verse 8, right? At some point in time, they took the Hebrew characters off, took it away to make it B'nai Yasher Al instead of B'nai Elua. Sons of Elua. So, same thing could have happened. I mean, this is just perfect example of that there is monkeying going around with the text when you got scribes that have an agenda.
Mm-hmm.
It's very clear that certain scribes have an agenda. So, but anyway, what I do like about the Vulgate, though, I'll give them credit here in this verse, since we're on this verse anyway. So the sun stood still in the midst of heaven, and it did not hurry to its rest for the space of one day. So what's interesting, it's showing, it's wording the sky as heaven, the first heaven. So you have it in the clouds. It's in the clouds. in the middle of heaven, in the middle of the first heaven. Possibly, you could say, that would be right below the waters, above the waters. So you have it like within the clouds and it doesn't set for one whole day. That's actually what it's showing there. And it's actually proving flat earth right there. Think about it. If the heavens are space, right? And the sun is in space and not in the clouds, why would the author of the book of Yahusha word it that way? It would make no sense whatsoever. And again, you wouldn't need to worry about it setting. For a sun to physically set, it has to move. If the sun doesn't move, you don't have to worry about the sun setting, right? So that's something you should think about too. Because for something to set, it moves. So even the word setting or going down, as Psalms 103 talks about, the sun knows when to go down. It's moving. So anyway, just wanted to point that out. Let's see, Mom. We were back at what? 2 Samuel 1.
Well, we read 2 Samuel 1.
Okay, so we're at chapter 2 already.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Let's see here. Brother Dennis, would you like to finish us off in chapter 2?
No. Chapter 2. Chapter 2.
Yeah.
Can you hear me okay?
Perfect. Sound perfect.
Okay. And it came to be afterwards that David inquired of Yahuwah, saying, do I go up to any of the cities of Yehudah? And Yahuwah said to him, go up. And David said, where should I go? And he said, to Hebron. And David went up there, as well as to his 2 wives, Abinoam and the Yasrelitis, and Abigail, the widow of Nabal, the Carmelite. And they brought up the men who were with him, each man with his household, and they dwelt in the cities of Hebron. And the men of Yehudah came and anointed David sovereign over the house of Yehudah there. And they also reported to David, saying, the men of Yabesh Gilead are they who buried Shaul. David then sent messengers to the men of Yabesh Gilead and said to them, you are Barak of Yahuwah, for you have shown this kindness to your master, to Shaul, that you buried him. Now Yahuwah show kindness and truth to you, and I am also going to do you, Tob, because you have done this deed. Now let your hands be strengthened and be brave, for your master Shaul is dead, and also the house of Yehudah has anointed me sovereign over them. So Abner, son of Ner, commander of the army of Shaul, took Ishbosheth, the son of Shaul, and brought him over to Mahanaim, and set him up to reign over Gilead, and over the Asherites, and over Yisrael, and over Ephraim, and over Benjamin, and over all Yisrael. Ishbosheth, son of Shaul, was 40 years old when he began to reign over Yisrael, and he reigned 2 years. Only the house of Yehudah followed David. And the time that David was sovereign in Hebron over the house of Yehudah was 7 years and 6 months. Abner, son of Ner, servants of Ishbosheth, son of Shaul, went out from Mahanaim to Gibeon. And Joab, son of Zeruiah, and the servants of David went out and met them by the pool of Gibeon. They sat down, one on one side of the pool and the other on the other side of the pool. And Abner, son of Joab, let the young men now rise and compete before us, And Joab said, "Let them rise." They rose and went over by number, 12 from Benjamin, followers of Ishbosheth, son of Shaul, and 12 from the servants of David. And each one grasped his opponent by the head and thrust his sword in his opponent's side. And they fell down together. So that place was called Field of Sharp Swords, which is in Gibeon. And the battle was fierce that day, and Abner and the men of Yisrael were smitten before the servants of David. And there were 3 sons of Zeruiah there, Joab and Abishai and Asahel. And Asahel was light on his feet as one of the gazelles in the field. And Asahel pursued Abner, and in going he did not turn aside to the right or to the left from following Abner. And Abner looked behind him and said, "Are you Asahel?" And he answered, "I am." And Abner said to him, "Turn aside to your right hand or to your left, and lay hold on one of the young men, and take his armor for yourself." But Asahel would not turn aside from following him. Abner again said to Asahel, "Turn aside from following me. Why should I smite you to the ground? And how then could I face your brother Joab?" But he refused to turn aside, and Abner smote him with the blunt end of the spear in the stomach, so that the spear came out of his back, and he fell down there and died on the spot. And it came to be that as many as came to the place where Asahel fell down and died stood still. And Joab and Abishai pursued Abner, and the sun was going down, and they came to the hill of Ammah, which overlooks Giah, by the way to the wilderness of Gibeon. The children of Benjamin gathered together behind Abner and became a single company, and took their stand on top of a hill. Abner called to Joab and said, "Should the sword devour forever? Do you not know that it is bitter in the latter end? And when you are going to say to the people to turn back from pursuing their brothers?" Joab said, "As Elohim lives, if you had not spoken, then all the people would have given up pursuing their brothers only the next morning." Joab then blew a ram's horn, and all the people halted and pursued Yisrael no further, nor did they fight any more. Abner and his men went to all that night through the desert plain, and passed over the Jordan, and went through all Bithron, and they came to Mahanaim. Joab turned back from pursuing Abner, and when he had gathered all the people together, they were missing of David's servants 19 men and Asahel. But the servants of David had smitten Benjamin and Abner's men, 360 men who died. And they brought Asahel and buried him in his father's tomb, which is in Bethlehem. And Joab and his men went all night, and they came to Hebron at daybreak.
Hmm. Okay.
Strange that he struck him with the blunt end of the spear. I would imagine that would be the not the spear side, but just the stick side, the bottom, and it
Uh-huh.
still went through him.
Yeah, sounds like it might have been very painful.
Yeah.
Don't think a Pepto-Bismol would have helped that.
No.
Hmm.
He must have struck him really hard for it to go through like that.
Oh, yeah. It sounded like he was a very strong man.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Was Ishbosheth, was that the one that was lame in his feet? Or no, that was Mephibosheth, I think.
Right, that one's coming up in a couple chapters. Yeah.
Yeah.
I wonder what that means, Bosheth.
Hmm.
Ishbosheth. Bosheth.
A lot of those.
Yeah. Man.
Okay, Ish or Osh. I would say that would be Osh. Oshbashath. Um, Osh is man, or can also be like husband, man. Bashath is seems to be shame. So man of shame. I wonder what Mephibosheth means.
Hmm. Interesting. Hmm. Let's see. Let's see here. So we got the trumpet being sounded there. Abner's men. That's interesting. So he was buried in Bethlehem. Very interesting. Let me see here. So I think that's the end of our planned reading for today. Let's see here. So the next chapter would be chapter 3. Okay. So yeah, I think we'll probably end today with that. So everyone that's been joining in, listening, viewing the study today, I just want to thank you guys for tuning in, listening in. You who are willing, I'm going to be able to remember to do this backup of the cloud recording every time now, so that shouldn't be an issue what happened last night. So again, guys, if you're really interested in seeing the part 1, I recommend click on my Facebook link I have on the YouTube page. You'll find my Facebook profile. And I did change at least I was at least able to change the audience on that live for everyone. So even if you're not my friend on Facebook, you should be able to see it. So, but in the future, I'm going to fix that. I'm only going to do YouTube's on live on YouTube's. I'm tongue tied right now. And if I can't do that, I'll just do a cloud recording and that's it. So I think that's about it. Shabbat Shalom, everyone, and have a great rest of the Shabbat. And Yahuwah willing, see you guys next time.